Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be studying action verbs. We're going to start by defining what a verb is. A verb is a word that shows action, links another word to the subject, helps another verb, or merely indicates existence. So we have the four examples of sentences below showing an example of every kind of verb. But we're going to focus today on the action verb. Let's start with them. So, an action verb, as we read previously, expresses what the subject is doing, and in this case, it expresses physical or mental actions. So, let's be careful because it is not going to be just physical actions but also mental actions. And sometimes for those mental actions, um, some people just confuse and they don't think that's an action, a real action. For example, sleeping. Sleeping is an action you are doing. Okay, now cooking is the first example we have here. She is cooking. Cooking is the first action verb that we have in these examples. That's the action of cooking. Then mechanic is fixing the car. We have fixing, that's the action. She cuts the beef. Cutting is the action. He drives a truck. Driving is the action. But there is something else we have to know about action verbs. And it is that action verbs can be divided into two, and these are transitive and intransitive verbs. Of course, they are transitive and intransitive action verbs. Okay, so the main point here it is that a transitive verb has a receiver for the action, and an intransitive verb doesn't have a receiver for the action. But there are some kinds of verbs that they could be even transitive or intransitive. So let's start with transitive verbs. We have the first example. He drives a truck. He drives what? A truck. So the truck receives the action that he's doing, receives the driving. Now, the mechanic is fixing the car. So what is the mechanic doing? Fixing what? The car. The car receives that action. Now we have intransitive verbs. These don't have a receiver for the action. As when we said she's cooking, we didn't mention what she's cooking. Um, she cuts the beef. In this case, oh, sorry, she cuts what? The beef. So this one is transitive, but the first one is intransitive. If we say just she is cutting, so we're just going to have the action that she is doing, but we don't have like a receiver for the action. Okay, now we have a verb that can be transitive or intransitive. She bakes delicious cakes. What is she doing? Baking. Or what does she do? Bakes. And what does she bake? Cakes. So the action is received by the cakes. But if we say she bakes well, we don't have any receiver for the action. So action verbs can be divided into transitive, intransitive verbs, and those verbs that could be in both parts. Let's practice a little bit. Christian studied his Bible every day without fail. Okay, we have the verb study. Let's look for a receiver. What does he study? His Bible. So this one is an transitive action verb because the Bible is receiving the action of study. Now, Marco Polo lived a life of adventure. What did Marco Polo live? A life of adventure. So, we have a receiver there. Let's see. Eve went to the store to buy tomatoes. Do we have any receiver? Yes, tomatoes. But what if we take out tomatoes? Eve went to the store to buy. We don't say what, so we don't have a receiver for the action. But tomatoes in this case is going to be the receiver, so this one is going to be a transitive action verb. Then we have he plays in the national selection. He plays what? We didn't say what he is playing, we just said where he plays. So this one is going to be intransitive. Then he plays, she plays softball very well. There we have a receiver. What she plays? Softball. But if we say just she plays very well, that is going to be an intransitive verb. So it depends how we use a verb. It could be transitive or intransitive. And this is all for today. And see you next time. Bye bye.